Hey everybody, this is D Hunter for another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Mega Figure Swamp Thing. This is the Platinum Chase variant. This is the artist concept unpainted version. Shout out to my boy Chuck20 from the Foosh forums. He got this and he preferred the regular version. He sold this guy to me at cost plus shipping. Very happy to check this off my list. You saved me some time and money. Appreciate that, buddy. Now you may wonder, why do I need the unpainted variation? Well, I sure don't need him, but I'm becoming completist with this line, so I'm getting each figure and each variation. I thought to myself, I could definitely use this guy, maybe with Poison Ivy control Swamp Thing. He turns gray, goes darker, goes evil, and Batman has to get him to snap out of it. I don't know, something like that. Beyond that, it's a kind of cool looking figure. This is the first unpainted figure that I found. I do believe that the Rebirth Superman, the Three Jokers Red Hood, and possibly Lobo also have unpainted variants out there. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging. As you can see, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Swamp Thing, McFarlane Platinum Chase Edition. Here's the package, unpainted. He comes with one alternate hand, a sort of vine type weapon, a display stand, and a collector's card. One side of the package, Swamp Thing from DC's Rebirth. Other side, somebody says Swamp Thing. At the bottom, a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode in case it helps anybody, but that is not unique to the Platinum version. That is shared with the regular one. On the back side, got Swamp Thing walking through the jungle, and here a bunch of other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Now, that is the issue when releasing a Platinum Chase variant that's unpainted, not really usable in a regular collection. And this guy's $40. So I can definitely see why some people were pretty annoyed getting the Platinum Chase variant when they wanted the regular version. Me, I'm happy to have both. Happy to help anyone out who had that problem, although Swamp Thing is done for me. But I do see that being a concern when purchasing this item, especially online. Anyway, it's a story for another day. So no further ado, let's open them up. And in case anyone is wondering, I did post a review on the regular Swamp Thing yesterday. There will be a link in the description below. Alright, now that I got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with a display stand, a collector's card, and then one alternate hand, sort of a vine or weapon-like hand. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is a Swamp Thing, a giant McFarlane mega figure. He's from the Rebirth comics. This is their tallest multiverse figure yet. Now this is the Platinum Chase variant, the unpainted artist-proof version. I've seen a lot of commotion online. So many people getting this version, and they really wanted the regular version, and I can completely understand that. Sure, in some ways you're kind of lucky to get the Chase variant, but a lot of people have no use for an unpainted figure. I really don't have a lot of use for it myself, but I'm a completist. I'm going to track down every figure and every variation McFarlane makes. I thought I would use this guy, possibly when Poison Ivy controls him. He goes dark. Beyond the Swamp Thing, he's my first artist-proof figure I've gotten. There's also a Gotham Knight Red Hood, Dark Knight Returns Batman, Dark Knight Returns Robin, Rebirth Superman, Rebirth Lobo, and those are all the unpainted artist-proof figures I can think of. I don't have any of them yet. If anyone out there happens to get one and you don't want it, please drop me a line. I would love to purchase it off you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the figure. Starting with his head here, looks good. He's got the signature Swamp Thing mustache. I'm glad they went with that version. Now the sculpting detail is phenomenal. That's one cool thing about these unpainted versions. You can really see how intricate the sculpting detail is. Guy looks great. Plants and vines all over him. Now I can only imagine what some really good customizer could do with this guy. Looks pretty nice. The regular one had a nice paint job, but I've seen some really good washes and repaints to that guy. Double jointed knees. Looks like single jointed elbow. A lot of detail in the back. You can see the flowers. Absolutely nothing's painted here. Gotta be a lot of work, but it could be so cool. And just a closer look at his face or head sculpt. I love the mustache version. Just screams old school Swamp Thing from the comics or from the films. And then, Here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typically McFarlane stand, black perfect circle. It says DC at the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg holes on his feet. Very thin, very basic. Now let's look at his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Swamp Thing, the figure posed up. It's black and white, unpainted, just like the figure. Swamp Thing from DC's Rebirth. Backside, there's a little description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Here's the regular Swamp Thing's collector's card, next to the unpainted Platinum Chase variant Swamp Thing's collector's card. Looking forward to also getting the GameStop Antler version of Swamp Thing. Now let's take a look at his hands. Here's Swamp Thing with his regular hands. And here he is with his alternate right hand, sort of a vine-like weapon. Almost looks kind of like something Clayface would have as an alternate hand. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. And this guy is a giant. Like I said before, the tallest McFarlane Multiverse figure yet. From bottom to the top, standing at about 11.2 inches tall, which you can translate to about 28.5 centimeters. Here's Swamp Thing, next to a comic-style Superman and Batman. You can see just how much bigger he is than a standard McFarlane figure. Not quite twice as big, but not too far off. I've seen a couple people complain about this Swamp Thing being too tall. I personally absolutely love how big he is. Swamp Thing has been much larger than this in the comics, and much smaller. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side. It can look up about that far, down about that much. Not too bad there. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Give him a good amount of personality. Shoulders on a ball joint. Notice this little leafy stuff, very soft. It goes above his shoulder, not to obstruct anything. Ball joint, about 90-degree bend, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area, just increase the range of motion, although mine seems a little bit stuck. Bicep cut below that, not too much range there. Single jointed elbow, about 90-degree bend, does have rotation as well. Then his wrist here can rotate, and it's hinged as well. Double ball joints in his torso. You can see it rotates around, goes forward and back. Another one on his waist, rotates around, forward and back. Pretty good range of motion here, especially for such a big figure. Legs, complete does a splits, not a ball joint, but a similar type idea. Rotation, minimal, better than some of the McFarlane figures. They go forward about that far, back, not too much. Double jointed knees below that. Then his ankle here goes forward and back, can't rotate, can't tilt, and there's toe articulation. And I wanted to check out if there were any differences between the standard version of Swamp Thing and the Platinum Chase unpainted version, and I will tell you, there sure are not. Looking forward to getting the Antler version. At least that one will have a different head. It'll be cool to have all three variations. Here's Alec Holland, working in his lab. Until his lab explodes under mysterious circumstances, Alec Holland is covered in chemicals and fire. He jumps into the swamp to save his life, transforming him into Swamp Thing. And I always remember Swamp Thing taking on some large creatures or monsters. Here's Swamp Thing fighting NECA's Ultimate Kessler Wolf. And here, taking on a McFarlane Witcher Ice Giant. And then being overrun by a large McFarlane Witcher Kikamura. Here's Swamp Thing choking a couple of McFarlane Stranger Things Demogorgons. And then chilling with a couple of his tree ant buddies. Which one do you guys think will be the boss of the swamp? We got this giant tree ant, or Swamp Thing. Here's a woman handing a flower to Swamp Thing. This figure works for a good fill-in for his wife or girlfriend, Abigail Arcane. And say you got Poison Ivy, she gets into the swamp. She's escaping Gotham City, hiding from Batman. She feels very comfortable here in the wild with all the green. Poison Ivy is intrigued by the Swamp Thing. She's heard of him, but never seen anything quite like this before. She thinks to herself, she could do a lot with Swamp Thing. If she can control him, just like she can control plants, she could use him to help eliminate the Batman. She reaches up, in what Swamp Thing thinks is in friendship. She works her magic. She has pheromones. She has the ability to control plants. She doesn't even have to kiss him. He's not a typical organic person. Here's Poison Ivy with her new bodyguard, her new minion Swamp Thing behind her. He's a gray color now, kind of lifeless, doesn't have his own energy. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures, starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the regular version of Swamp Thing. The regular version is an amazing figure. The detail, the paint job is just fantastic. I can't wait to get the antler version to complete all three of them. Drop me a line in the comments below how many of you guys ordered Swamp Thing and got the unpainted variant, and how many of you guys were pissed off about it. I can completely understand. Unless you're a completist like me, I'm going to be getting each of the figures, but I really don't have any love for the unpainted ones. If you wanted a regular Swamp Thing, I cannot imagine anyone actually wanted the unpainted variant. Here's Swamp Thing next to all the other McFarlane Mega figures they've made so far. Steppenwolf, Darkseid, Swamp Thing, and King Shark. The next two they're making are going to be Titan Joker and Clayface. I am super excited for that Clayface, and the rumor is the next two after that are going to be Man-Bat and Killer Croc. Sounds great. Here's Swamp Thing next to all the different Build-A-Figures that McFarlane has made so far. We have Darkfather, the Joker Batman robot, Bane, Merciless, and King Shark. Swamp Thing is way taller than any of them. I guess that's one thing Swamp Thing and Bane have in common. They're both gray for absolutely no reason. Now let's check him out, next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to a couple of Lex Luthors. Then, next to Lobo and Superboy Prime. And here, next to the Birds of Prey Harley Quinn and the Mortal Kombat 11 Joker. Then, next to the Hazmat Suit Batman and the Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman, Blue Edition. Here's Swamp Thing, next to the recently released 3 Joker's Wave. Still need to track down Batman. And here, next to the Gotham Knights, Nightwing and Red Hood. Now let's check him out, next to some other Swamp Thing figures, and I don't have many. Here he is, next to a DC Direct, DC Comics Essentials Swamp Thing. Not to be confused with the DC Essentials line. He's from the DC Comics Essentials line. Yes, it's a thing. This Swamp Thing is also large and oversized. It's a very nice figure, but I really like the new one better. At least the regular version, not this gray monstrosity. And then, next to a whole bunch of old 5-inch Kenner Swamp Thing figures from the old movies. I used to use these Swamp Things as Poison Ivy henchmen, back when there weren't a lot of options. Here's Swamp Thing, next to all my different Poison Ivy figures. Now let's check them out, next to some other plant-type creatures and action figures. We'll start off with the smaller, crappier ones and work our way larger, most of which I use for Poison Ivy henchmen or creations. Here he is with a couple of children's toys. These are from Schleek Toys. These are some pretty nice, crazy plant monsters. Then, next to a couple of Playmates, Ninja Turtle animated snakeweed figures. And here, next to a Godzilla Biollante. Then, next to a couple of Resident Evil plant monsters. These are probably my favorite Poison Ivy creations in my collection. And here, next to a couple of Mattel Masters of the Universe Revelations Mossman figures. These work good as some sort of augmented humans turned into plants. Sometimes I'll use one of them as the Floronic Man in my DC world. Here's Swamp Thing, next to a Hasbro Marvel Legends Groot. Then, next to a couple of Stranger Things Demogorgons. These are the crappier version from Bandai. I always thought the Demogorgon kind of worked as an organic plant creation. Their heads open up like the petals of a flower. Then, next to a couple of the larger, amazing McFarlane Stranger Things Demogorgons. Here's Swamp Thing, next to a couple of Toy Biz Lord of the Rings Tree Ents. And then, next to the giant Treebeard, I guess Swamp Thing is not my tallest plant action figure. Now let's check them out, next to some other McFarlane Mega figures. McFarlane Mega figures are essentially large, deluxe, oversized figures that can't fit into regular packaging. They usually run for about $40, and he's making them in several of his different lines. Here's Swamp Thing, next to a Princess Bride Fezzik. Then, next to the Ice Giant from Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Here he is, next to a Witcher Netflix Kikamura. Then, next to the Spawn Violator. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies to see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Even though Swamp Thing is a giant 11-some inch tall figure, he's of the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect and work my way smaller. Here he is, next to some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane figures. These are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel, DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, with some Mayfix figures. Then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, this is a really nice figure, but this is an unpainted, gray, shittier version of the same figure. The regular Swamp Thing is amazing. I rate him something like a 9 out of 10. It's just a great figure. This one here will get something like a 6 out of 10. It's unpainted, not very practical. At least I can sort of rationalize and justify what I can do with him in my collection. This is how he'll look when he's taken over by Poison Ivy. I have no idea what I'll do with some of the other figures. The other thing you could do with this guy, maybe put him in a Hall of Statues, sort of a Hall of Heroes, DC Hall of Fame. I don't know. His articulation's nice, size is good, sculpt is fantastic, paint job is not even there. If I were to rate this guy, probably give him a 6 out of 10. It's a nice figure, but it's just not necessary. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.